Hi everybody, this is Mr. Magic, and today we're going to do another deck tech. We're going to talk about Krenko mob balls, and how do you play them? And that might seem like the idiot's guide. Just how do you not play Krenko mob balls? How is this even a question? You dump a bunch of goblins and you hit people in the face. Well, for those who don't have exposure to a lot of mono red, to those who maybe this is a learning opportunity, and maybe maybe there are some answers in here that you didn't know were available in red, because I reach back pretty deep into Magic's history for some of my key combo pieces here. So with all that said, let's talk about why Krenko's a good commander. First and foremost, Krenko costs 4. Makes him cheap. With a Jeweled Lotus, you can squeeze him into play on turn 1. And there are a handful of other manipulations that you can do. You can get him into play very, very fast. You want to put Moxes, your Opal, your Chrome. You want to put those into this deck, then you can make this even faster than it already is. So there's Krenko. The first thing, he's cheap. Second is, is he a guaranteed combo piece in the command zone? Well, absolutely, because he taps to double the number of goblins in play. That's a very powerful. He does combo with other cards. He satisfies the condition of desiring good cards, but he combos all by himself. He hits the turn after he comes out, or if you've got a haste mechanic in effect, then the turn he comes out, he's doubling the number of goblins. And that's very, very powerful. So he's cheap, he's a guaranteed combo piece, he desires good cards. He does not provide us with card draw all by himself, but there are ways to enable some card draw, and we'll look into that. So let's set Krenko aside here, and we'll talk about some of our options. Now, the go-to combo, the Wombo combo, for me, that just finishes so many games is, let's see, right here. Right there. Those are probably the all-stars. I have Krenko in play, and then let's say I drew either of these cards. Matron will go get Recruiter. That's really all she's for. Recruiter will go get this stack of cards. Oh, let's see. The King and Siege Gang Commander are good ones. So Recruiter goes and gets this stack of cards right here. And I just make sure that I have preferably 7 available mana. And I play Muxus for 6. When he enters, I reveal the top 6 cards of my library. So this is the play. Recruiter creates a stack with Muxus on top, and then I either draw a card in order to grab Muxus, or on the next turn I grab Muxus and I play him for 6 mana, making sure to leave 1 more open. Muxus will then reveal the top 6 cards of my library, which I just ordered with Recruiter. And we just dumped a powerhouse onto the field. Goblin King's going to give everybody else +1/+1, or all goblins, including himself. War Chief gave everybody haste. Bandit Lord gave everybody else +1/+1. Pile Driver's going to get +2 for each other attacking goblin. Reckless One's equal to the number, size and power and toughness equal to the number of goblins in play. And here's what we left that 1 open for. We're gonna tap Krenko to double the number of goblins in play. And assuming there's no interaction, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we make 9 more goblins. So a total of 17 goblins entered the field this turn, and we will tap and pay red to activate Hobgoblin Bandit Lord's ability. And he will deal damage equal to the number of goblins that entered the battlefield under your control this turn to any target. 18 damage to your opponent's face is often enough to close out a game. But that's not all we're doing. Let's say we took out one opponent with that. Muxus is going to attack, and he's going to pump himself +1/+1. Besides all the other modifiers on the board, he's going to pump himself +1/+1 for every other goblin I control. The Pile Driver is attacking, and all of my tiny hasted goblin tokens are attacking, so the Pile Driver is huge. Maybe I can swing Muxus at one opponent. Excuse me. Hobgoblin Bandit Lord did 3 more damage because Siege Gang Commander also made goblins. So, Pile Driver is huge. He probably takes out an opponent. Muxus might be taking out an opponent. It is not uncommon for Muxus to be over 50 power and toughness by the time I manage this combo. And so, and again, it can be done very, very fast, just depending on the amount of ramp and the mana that you have available. It costs 7 mana to pull that off. 6 for Muxus and 1 for Bandit Lord's ability. So then let's talk about enchantments. There are a lot of enchantments in my Goblin deck, and they do a variety of different things. Well, I apologize. Before we get to enchantments, we should finish talking about creatures. Conspicuous Snoop. It's a very common combo to stack your deck with Recruiter, put Conspicuous Snoop on top, and then you start playing the goblins that you managed with, that you just stacked with your Recruiter. And Conspicuous Snoop copies the activated abilities of those goblin cards. Trap Runner is a goblin that makes more goblins. Sneaking Guide ensures that certain critical goblins like Lackey and Instigator can definitely touch our opponent. Chieftain is another enabler that could go in our stack from earlier. Sharpshooter is about control. What if our opponent is making, what if you're running up against a Lathril Blade of the Elves? What if your opponent is running some kind of tokens deck that does a 1/1? Well, then you've got Sharpshooter, and you can just mow down all of their tokens. And if we've got Basilisk Collar, or Gorgon's Flail is another example, to give Death Touch to Sharpshooter, then he kills everything he touches, and he constantly untaps himself when he kills things. Trailblazer's Boots goes into this stack where we're talking about, you know, goblins like Lackey and Instigator, that they touch the opponent and then we put goblins into play for free. Well, Trailblazer's Boots Access Tunnel guarantee that we can touch the opponent. Viridian Longbow allows, you know, says this creature, the equipped creature has tap, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. So you put Viridian Longbow on your Warren Instigator or on your Goblin Lackey, and then you tap it to deal damage to your opponent, and that lets you drop your Muxus for free. Great opportunity. Then Coat of Arms, of course, because why not? Even though I'm pretty sure it's banned. And then we've got Umbral Mantle is here because it is in a category of things that go infinite. So I'm going to hold off on that. Tunneler. Goblin Tunneler helps us. Says tap target creature with power 2 or less is unblockable this turn. So that goes into a category of things, you know, to guarantee we can touch the opponent. Skirt Commando deals combat damage to a player, and you can have it deal 2 damage to any creature that player controls. So Skirt Commando can be kind of a surprise attack. Maybe somebody doesn't see it coming, especially since he has Morph. Then, let's see, we'll put that down here. Goblin Assassin is in here as a kind of control. He's in the category with the Sharpshooter. And whenever Goblin Assassin or another Goblin comes into play, each player flips a coin, and each player whose coin comes up tails sacrifices a creature. Now, so if you just made 8 Goblin tokens with Krenko, and you have 8 of these flip triggers, well, statistically you'll lose 4 of your Goblin tokens, but your opponent, your opponents will also statistically sacrifice 4 creatures, and that just generates a lot of creature advantage for you. Ib Halfheart, Goblin Tactician. Whenever another goblin you control becomes blocked, sacrifice it. If you do, it deals 4 damage to each creature blocking it. He's also got Sacrifice 2 mountains and put a 1/1 red goblin creature token into play, which I've never used that mechanic. But Ib Halfheart will punish your opponents for blocking your goblins. You want your goblins to connect, and Ib Halfheart is there to destroy your opponent's creatures and to to help guarantee that we can connect. Brash Taunter is in here because we can pull off some interesting things. If our opponent has somehow managed to build up a defensive wall, then we can throw a Soul's Fire or a massive raid, a Goblin War Strike. Any of these we can throw at our own Brash Taunter, and he reflects that damage back onto our opponents. He's kind of like a Stuffy Doll, but in red. He's indestructible, and we can even pay red 2 and tap him, and he fights another target creature. Rigging Runner is really in here just because he's a turn 1 play. Goblin Rabble Master is at the beginning of combat, you make a 1/1 red goblin creature token. And then he buffs himself +1/+0 for every other attacking goblin. He attacks each combat if able. So he's there because he makes tokens. He makes goblin tokens, and that's something that we really want in this deck. Raging Goblin, of course, because who doesn't love a Raging Goblin? Click Slither is in here because we can feed him goblins. He has haste, sack a goblin, he gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. this is just a doomsday sort of situation. If somehow your opponent has managed to build a board state, and they're blocking your stuff, well, you have 10 goblin tokens out on the field. You can line that, and they declare their blockers. Well, after the blocking, you can sack those goblins to click slither and make sure he gets through. We can put Rogue's Passage, Access Tunnel, a variety of other components onto click slither and make sure that he's unblockable, and then we can just pump him through the roof. Skirt Prospector is there because it's just great to feed him goblins and make red mana, but we can perform an excellent combo between Umbral Mantle, Skirt Prospector, and where did our commander go? And Krenko Mob Boss. So let's say we've got Krenko out here with Umbral Mantle and a Skirt Prospector, and we have some goblins on the board. We have a few of these. Well, here's how we would do this. We would tap Krenko, activating his ability, to create 5 more goblins. Then we would sack 3 of those goblins to Skirt Prospector. We still have the 5 we just made. And untap with Umbral Mantle, we untap Krenko Mob Boss, paying the 3 we made, plus untapping him. Now Krenko gets +2/+2, and we can tap him again. Well, we still have the 5 tokens we made a moment ago, plus these 2, we make 7 more. And so we're increasing the number of goblins. As long as you have, I think you only need 1 in play to start the chain. And that goes infinite. You can make infinite red mana. You can make Krenko Mob Boss infinitely big because he's gaining +2/+2 off of Umbral Mantle every time we pump this. So that's an infinite combo. Then let's talk about a very similar infinite combo. Breath of Fury. So I've got my Krenko Mob Boss, Umbral Mantle or not. And I've got some goblins, and I equip one of them with Breath of Fury. It says, when the enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, sack it and attach Breath of Fury to a creature you control. If you do, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So if I have some haste mechanic, like Chieftain or War Chief or etc., then all of my goblin tokens have haste. I make sure 1 connects, it dies, Breath of Fury goes on to another, and I untap all of my stuff. Then I tap Krenko to make more goblins. And then this goes infinite. As long as all of these new tokens have haste, then I can take infinite attack steps, which is fantastic. That's a game changer right there, or a game ender rather. So let's move our creatures out of the way, and we'll continue talking about enchantments. Many of the enchantments in this deck deal with making some kind of direct damage to our opponents. Let's see. So I'm going to put these enchantments into 4 categories. The first is very simple. Footfall Crater and Racecourse Fury enchant lands, and the enchanted land has target creature gains haste. and Footfall Crater includes Trample as well until end of turn. So those haste one creature, which can be critical. Then we're going to talk about enchantments that that either guarantee, well, Bravado just buffs our creatures, I apologize. Gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control. So if you got 23 goblins on the field, they each get +2 or +22/+22. Well, Bedlam says creatures cannot block. So if you're worried about your opponent having a lot of creatures, maybe don't play this. Don't play this until you've cleared the board with Half-Heart or the Goblin Assassin or Goblin Sharpshooter, and you've controlled the board state, and then, you know, or you think you can overwhelm your opponent with the number of goblins you have and finish things off this turn. But, you know, Bedlam can work against you because you can't jump block anymore. So be careful about how you play it. Goblin War Drums has a very long flavor text because it's from way back in Fallen Empires. It essentially gives your attacking creatures menace. But all of that flavor text was, or all that Oracle text was written back before menace was a named mechanic. So then we've got a whole stack of enchantments that do direct damage to our opponent based on creatures attacking, entering the battlefield, or leaving the battlefield. Cavalcade of Calamity, a creature I control with power 1 or less attacks Cavalcade does 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. Boggart Shenanigans says a goblin I control is put into the graveyard from play, and tokens do go to the graveyard. They just disappear after that. They fizzle. Then I can have Boggart Shenanigans deal 1 damage to target player. Outpost Siege. This is just a very, very utilitarian card. If you choose cons, then you can exile the top card of your library during your upkeep, and you have until end of turn to play that card. But I always choose dragons as the mode, because whenever a creature I control leaves the battlefield, so I can sack my own goblins. You know, you can sack them to an Altar of the Brood, to a Culling Dais, to a Altar of Dementia, all kinds of wonderful sack outlets and utility outlets, but you actually squeeze extra utility out of this, because whenever a creature you control dies or leaves the battlefield, Outpost Siege deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Warstorm Surge, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my control, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So let's say, you know, you've got your coat of arms out, and you make 10 goblins off of Krenko, and then you just did, you know, they each buff each other +9/+9. They're all 10/10 creatures. You just did 100 damage to somebody. Or you have 100 damage to distribute, rather. Raid Bombardment, whenever your creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. Gratuitous Violence. If a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. Berserker's Onslaught. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. That really belongs over here in this other pile of attack modifying enchantments. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Goblin Bombardment. Sack a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. So Goblin Bombardment is a sack outlet that would satisfy, say something like our Boggart Shenanigans. I can sack a goblin to Goblin Bombardment, and it deals a damage to any target. And then because a goblin left the battlefield, Boggart Shenanigans deals damage to any target. So I squeeze 2 damage out of it. So there are a ton of enchantments, and we're not even actually done with them. We've also got things like Burning Anger. Equipped creature has tapped. This creature deals damage equal to its power to any player. Power of Fire. Tap. This creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Lavamancer's Skill. Tap. This creature deals 1 damage to any creature or player. And if it's a wizard, then it deals 2 damage. Well, why these cards? Why are they in here? And really, it's about, if I haven't drawn Sharpshooter for some reason, and I need to create for myself a Sharpshooter, I need a way to ping a creature that's got Death Touch. Well, or some other reason. Those let me make a pinger. That's what those are for. Then let's talk about coming into the close here, and let's talk about our instants and sorceries, what they do. Brightstone Ritual, absolutely. Add red, it costs red, and add red to your mana pool for each goblin in play. That just gets so broken in this deck so fast. Battle Hymn, 1 and red, add red to your mana pool for each creature you control. If you've got either of those cards, you've got no mana problems. Relentless Assault. Untap all creatures that attacked this turn after this main phase. There is an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So this is something that you play during main phase 2. And it squeezes out 1 extra. Like you're in a situation where, oh, I can do 29, but he has 32 life. Well, no, I can take care of that. I can go ahead and wipe him out. So Massive Raid, Goblin Warstrike. Massive Raid deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of creatures you control. So you make a ton of goblins, you deal a ton of damage. Goblin Warstrike deals damage equal to the number of goblins you control to target player. So Massive Raid can target a creature, Goblin Warstrike can only target a player. Goblin Offensive is red, 1, and X. Put X goblin tokens into play. Treat those tokens as 1/1 red creatures. So make a ton of goblins off of Goblin Offensive. Outnumber is red, and Outnumber deals damage to target creature equal to the number of creatures you control. Just a little bit of spot removal. You know, your opponent played something big and threatening, and now you can deal damage to that equal to the number of goblins you control. And you can preserve those goblins for... You can deal damage equal to the number of goblins you control, but it lets you preserve those little 1/1s for the next combat phase. Fling is, well, let's say I make myself a great big Click Slither, or a great big Reckless one, or a great big whatever, and I connect with one opponent, taking him out. But I've left myself wide open for my, for someone else to attack me next turn. Well, there's Fling. I sack a creature and deal damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So I take the next opponent out. And then Soul's Fire says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Kazul's Fury. You sack a creature and deal damage equal to the sacked creature's power to any target. So those are like... red is just, it's very fast, very aggressive, and, you put yourself in a situation, or maybe you need to put yourself in a situation where you're taking out one player, but the whole table thinks that you've left yourself wide open, when during main phase 2, you drop Fling, Soul's Fire, or Kazul's Fury, and take out the rest of the table and take the game. So, I win a lot with this deck, and it is very, very fast. I have won turn 3 with this deck before, and it doesn't really even have a lot of fast mana or mana ramp in it, when you consider that Soul Ring is the only mana rock, and then Battle Hymn and the Goblin-based one. Those 2 cards, those are the only mana ramp at all in this deck. There's no Seething Song, there's no Fire Diamond, there's, Mox Opal, Mox Chrome, Mox Amber. They are not in here. And I could certainly, I have those cards, and I could certainly put them in here, but when this deck can consistently win on turn 5 or 6 and has one as early as turn 3, and again, I'm just playing kitchen table Magic. I don't play competitively. I don't play, I don't play in any kind of constructed format. So why make it faster? I'm just saying, for those of you out there who, maybe you're on the Discord with Playing with Power, or I Hate Your Deck, or something like that, and you want to get in there and flex a little bit, by all means, throw you some fast rocks in here, and, go beat up Lynch on turn 2 with Krenko and 15 or 20 goblins. It can happen. Like I said, it's very, very fast as is, and there's certainly ways to make it faster. So if you guys see something and you're like, why in the world is that in there? Or you have an idea about, Mr. Magic, you need to put thus and such. Well, let me know. I love your interactions. I love when you guys reach out and you tell me what I'm doing wrong. How am I going to get better as a player if nobody tells me what I'm doing wrong? And, positive feedback is great too. It's nice when somebody says, hey, that was fantastic. Now I have ideas. I didn't even know Goblin War Drums was a card. Thanks so much. Anything like that is always welcome. And I read all the comments and I always get back to you guys. So I have a blast doing this, and you guys just have a great day.